Welcome to the Sharon Fitzmaurice podcast, where we celebrate the resilience of the human spirit. And I have a wonderful guest with me today, all the way from Rhode Island, Rita Lussier.
Yes.
Yes, award-winning columnist and author, shares her personal journey in her latest book, And Now Back to Me. After her youngest heads off to New York City, Rita navigates rekindling her marriage, reviving her career, and managing the emotional and physical demands of aging parents, all while just rediscovering her own health and happiness. Rita, you are very welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I think we're going to have a good conversation.
Absolutely. So Rita and myself were having a little chat before we pressed record, and I was telling Rita that I can resonate on a lot of fronts with her own journey and with her beautiful book, And Now Back to Me. Having two grown-up kids and one that has flown further afield to Australia, how it felt like a grief and a loss in many regards, even though, as I said to Rita, we gave them wings so they could fly. And when they flew a bit further afield, it seemed like, again, we were losing a part of them, but really, I believe, Rita, it was part of ourselves, isn't it, that's gone with them
Yes.
because our roles as parents, whether we had careers or, other hobbies or interests, our first main role was as a parent to those wonderful children. And we all know it's not going to last forever, that they'll stay small and young and want to be at home. But when that day comes, it is a little bit of a shock to the system, will we say.
Yeah, the empty nest is so interesting in that it's a major life transition, but unlike other ones, like, I don't know, a car accident, the death of a loved one, or any of those kinds of things where it comes on you unexpectedly and you have no time to prepare, you know this is coming from the day your youngest child is born, and yet it just catches us almost by surprise. I won't say surprise, but the impact is big and all the emotions are very felt very deeply. So I would say, as I struggled with the empty nest, I think there is a misperception out there that if you struggle with the empty nest, it's because you place too much emphasis on family. You didn't have enough other things going on in your life. You didn't have a big career, or you didn't have interesting hobbies or anything like that. And yet, the truth is, as I've learned from having launched this book and talked to many mothers and fathers who do have big careers and have fascinating hobbies and run businesses, and they're very successful, they are devastated when their kids leave. So it is okay. It is a time that you should feel some sadness and loss, and that's totally natural. And it's perfectly normal to ask for some help. And I hope more and more people do.
Thank you, Rita. Yes, I suppose it is part of our identity when our children are younger and they need us more, and we're bringing them to school and bringing them to extracurriculum activities, and then they start going out and need a lift home or a lift to somewhere, and they rely on us, don't they? But then there is that, again, very normal development in their independence and where they're learning to drive or learning to go places on their own. And there's a form of, I can hear other parents saying there's nearly a relief when they start to get a little bit independent because you're going, oh, I don't have to do three different runs today. I have an hour to myself, maybe. And all of that. But it is, and again, I tried to look at it from my own perspective as well. And my children, as they grew older, didn't need me as much, and that was fabulous. I was delighted that they were becoming so independent. And so, why then was it such a shock or that feeling of loss when they actually left the home? Because there was a feeling in me that this was it, this was their start of their own lives out on their own. and they still need your guidance and support along the way, but you're not going to be as much a part of their lives as you were when they were living at home with you.
Absolutely. It's a whole transition into adulthood and uh, and like your point about when they were younger and you were so busy. I mean, there were times that were ridiculously busy. I mean, anybody with multiple kids and a career or, a spouse, you're just like going off in a million directions. I don't think you get time to think about too much of anything. And so you get so wrapped up in that it's hard. At least I found it hard. I liken it to that you're driving at 100 miles an hour and suddenly they walk out the door and you slam into like a bridge abutment, and it's really hard to get your own car started again, to figure out what's your new routine, what's your new rhythm, how are you going to fill your days, because you have been, especially as a mother, adjusting and adapting to the lives of those around you for decades, really. So it's a huge, huge transition.
Mm,
And I think it's
yeah.
worthy of some discussion.
Definitely. And even the title of your book, And Now Back to Me. And that's something, obviously, I work with clients, in their well-being. And I do have many parents, male and female, that come to me and they say, I do have a career, I do have a business, I have hobbies, but my children, the youngest has just left now, and I don't know who I am, what I'm supposed to be
Yep.
apart from my job, the hobbies I have, my friends. I have loads more time. I always wanted more time, but now I'm not sure what to do at that time. And I said, because you're not the same person you were before you had children. You've grown into somebody else, and now it's kind of redefining, as you said, who am I now? And it's a real look within, isn't it, Rita? What are my values and goals now? What's important to me now? Actually, maybe I like different things. Maybe they're not the same as they were 20 or 30 years ago. I don't look the same. I don't feel the same. So what is it that's important to me now? Did you feel like that, Rita?
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing that I will mention is that what I had no idea about, I don't know why, again, I didn't think it through, but all the other things that come at you at the same time as your children leave. Like it's not like you're just concentrating on that. For me, it was, and for many. So, who is this man I'm living with? We were always a family, for decades. And so, but now we're alone together and we're a couple, sort of, except we forgot how to be a couple.
Mm,
So that was a really, really big part of the transition. Um, in my particular case, I had been writing a newspaper column for the Providence Journal for like a dozen years, and that seemed to just, of course, end at the same time. So I found myself, so what do I do with my career now? And then I think this is very, very typical of people our age, is the sandwich generation, they call it. But the fact that, my parents were older and their needs were changing. And, my caretaking went in a heartbeat from my children to my parents.
mm,
And, very different needs, of course, but the responsibility of for someone other than yourself, um, every day was much the same. And then, there's just lots of things like, what are we going to do about our house? Are we going to stay here? Are we going to move? Are we going to get something bigger, something smaller? Are we going to renovate? What? And money and retirement and all these things. It just seemed like everything that had to be decided or figured out came at me at a time when, my mind was like, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing?
yeah.
So it was very, very helpful. At least that was one of the ways I processed my thoughts, to write every day. And that's how the book came about.
I love it. So it was helping you process everything, but now as readers read it, it's helping them and supporting
Yes,
them in saying,
that's the
oh,
goal.
that's exactly what I was thinking and feeling,
Yes,
you know. And I always say, when you write your words down, and I remember when I published my first book, people said that's exactly my story, in different
yes,
circumstances maybe. And it
yes.
is that people feel like I'm not alone in the way I feel and think at this stage or whatever was going on. And yeah, I love what you said as well about you and your husband. One of the things myself and my husband, John, now we didn't, obviously when the kids were younger, we didn't get many days out or nights out or anything like that. But whenever we did, we used to say it was Sharon and John's day of fun. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
we used to be like two kids getting into the car, even if it was only for an hour. But we would emphasize it was our night or day or fun or whatever. And it was a way, I suppose there was some part of me that knew that our children wouldn't always be here with us in the house. And that, like you, and I heard so many of my clients saying, I don't recognize, my partner anymore. We've grown apart. We've different interests. If we didn't talk about the children, we didn't talk about anything else. Whereas I was lucky in that regard, and obviously a podcast host, I like to talk and listen to people's stories. So I was the same with my husband, and because of my work, I had lots of interesting things to talk about, and we had different interests that we used to share and talk about as well. So even though the emphasis was on our children, there was a part of me, I suppose, that had that little instinct that we
That's
need
great.
to keep in touch because I want you to know you. Once our children walk out the door, I want to say, "Oh, hi," not "Hello, who are you?"
Yes, I wrote about it in And Now Back to Me, but it was awkward is the word I like to use at first with my husband. Um, the week we dropped our daughter at school in New York, that Friday, he picked me up that evening at my yoga class, and I looked over at my husband and he said, "So, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" And then he said, "Well, it seems like we should do something. Don't you think we should?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, we should." And we ended up like we drove literally around in circles in Newport, Rhode Island for like an hour discussing what to do. What should we do? What should we do? And we ended up at our neighbor's restaurant and we sat at the bar and ordered takeout, and we had really, we ended up seeing neighbors and had a really nice time waiting there. And that was like the beginning of figuring out a whole new way of living. And we were lucky because, we were able to figure it out over time. And I think some of the funniest chapters in my book are of like me trying to go into his interests and his world, and him like he actually tried to go to a yoga class with me. And it was like, but these ideas of like trying to find common ground and some of our attempts. So
Yeah, I
it
love
was
that.
fun.
Yeah, I love it. And I used to call it a rekindling as well, but I think it's getting to know, it's not just getting to know ourselves now at this time, after the children. Who am I now? What do I like now? What am I interested in? But it's also relearning about your partner and what they like. And
Yeah,
again, then together, what could we do? Is it something new? Is it something shared? And sometimes it's the simplest things, but I think it's the conversation that's the most important thing, the communication, as always, as in
absolutely.
everything. It's
That's
being able
true.
to say, I would like to do more of this, and your partner being able to say what they'd like to do. And again, that compromise and saying, well, let's try and see. But again, if you don't like it, I think it's okay to say that as well.
Yes, but we had fun trying.
I
So,
love that. I love it. And again, it's new, isn't it? As you said, it's a new thing for both of you. And I think it's again having patience with each other and understanding that this is hard for both and that our emphasis had been on children and young adults for quite a long time. And all of a sudden it is back to you. And the other thing I would say to people, if you get a dog, the dog will be the new baby.
There you go. That's a great idea. Oh my God.
Yeah, so we had a dog before the kids left, but he's still quite young, and he became the emphasis of our attention. And he gets more hugs now every single day because there's no children to hug anymore, and he's loving it. So
Oh,
again, you know what it is? It's like they always say grief is like with love has nowhere to go. And I feel as parents, when your children aren't present, it's that same feeling. Your love has nowhere to go in that moment physically, and a text or call is never the same. But
that's
at
true.
least we have that connection, and it's to keep, I always say, even if your children are off living their lives and have a great time, keep the connection open. And we should do the same with our partners and with our friends and everyone. Keep the connection open because there's a lot of people feeling the same as you.
Yeah. And you reminded me of one of the fascinating things about the transition, at least especially if your kids went to college,
Mm.
is that they come back.
Yeah.
Like that there's like winter vacation and summer vacation. And so I found myself, you're just getting your little independent feet down and you're getting your new rhythm with your husband and what your days look like. And here they come. They're back. But for me, it was like instant, Mom, I know what to do. I feel so comfortable. This feels so right. This is amazing. I'm gonna cook. We're going here. This is your favorite restaurant. And I just like swing into it. And then they walk out again. And
Yeah.
then it's quiet. And then you just start the whole process almost all over again. It's very fascinating.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. But I suppose when you are a parent, you're a parent for life, no matter what
Yes.
age they are.
That's
And
true.
I always used to say that some people, when they return home as adults, 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds, and their parents are still lucky to be alive, that they turn into children almost when they go back to their parents' home, that they revert back into the roles they played when they were living at home, and the parents, if they're able, oh, I'll cook you dinner, I'll make you a nice
Yes,
cup of tea or coffee, and here's your favorite
yes,
biscuit. I got them in for you.
absolutely. Yes,
You
that's
know,
great. It's
yeah,
so
so I think
true.
that's natural and I think it's beautiful because again, even as grown-up children and well grown up at this stage, when you go somewhere familiar and somebody knows you really well, it is lovely to have that welcome. So I'm sure our own children, Rita, when they return home, they might be coming back into that familiar surroundings and maybe they just feel comfortable just being themselves there. So that's
Yeah,
lovely too, isn't it?
it is. It's just very nice. I think you're right. You're always a parent, no matter what. So, and many of my peers tell me that you get to start over, but it's different and fun with grandchildren. I don't have any yet,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it'll be fun.
Yeah, I don't want it just yet now, Rita, but when it does come, we'll welcome them. And yeah, I say that, my sister is a grandmother, and it may have seemed like this huge big thing at the time, but the little girl is now nearly 3 years of age, and she is a blessing to all of us. She has brought
Oh,
so much joy. But the one
oh,
thing is, my mother used to say, we can enjoy them when they're not ours because we can hand them back.
yes. Yeah, I think that's the joy with the grandchildren is you can spoil them, you can do what you want, you have all the fun things, and then, okay, mom, go get them.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love that. So tell me about what are the new things that you have tried, apart from, authoring an amazing book and getting it out there into the world and writing your thoughts and feelings and everything that, was going on for you. What is the one thing that you have tried or continue that has really had a positive effect on your life, Rita?
well, I would say that this is probably just because of who I am, but I've really gone back to something I started in college, which was running, and I had been running, all the while I had kids, but as I could fit it in, but when they left, I was able to just, have the time. So, not every morning, but maybe 5 mornings a week. I go out and do a run, and it's become a wonderful time for me. It's more than physical. It's kind of a centering practice, a meditation. It's a time to work out, what I'm going to do that day, or wrestle with any doubts and fears that I have. I always end up, what I like to think of, especially in the morning when I'm trying to think of reasons not to go out, is that there's never been a day when I finish my run and I'm not in better shape than I was when I started. So I really like that
I love
time.
it. Mm. And I think that is the thing as well. It's the time you have and how you value that time as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Because when what I hear from a lot of clients is, well, I don't know what to do and I don't know what to start because I didn't have that. And what should I try now? And I said, try everything. Try
Yes.
everything you've never had an opportunity to try and
That's
give
great
it.
advice.
Yeah, and give it 3 months. Don't start off, do it once or twice and say, oh, I'm not able for that, like running. I said, just start off slowly, one step at a time. Go, meet new people, because again, you're showing up as you, isn't it? And it's all for you now. So just start off anything. And, some people say, oh, I always wanted to learn salsa dancing. And I say, all right,
Oh,
yeah, why don't you
do
just
it.
go and try it? And they might be looking at me funny. And I said, don't worry, everyone's worrying about how they look. They're not worrying about how you look. So just go and have fun. And I think it's about having fun, just as you said, that we have spent many years looking after everybody else and, their emotional welfare. And it's time to kind of find out, what makes me feel better and feel good about being me now. That as I always say, we have a gift every day, don't we, Rita, when we wake up and we can open our eyes and breathe and put our feet on the ground. And anything after you do after that is a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that really helped me was that idea of, and it was not easy, but just trying to be indulgent a little bit, pamper yourself. And I wrote a whole chapter about it, about my first endeavor to do that, which was this idea that popped into my head that I have like a favorite hair salon, but it's like 30 miles away. And I just got the idea that I would book a blow dry, which is like seemed extravagant and indulgent, and it was, and expensive. But I just said, you deserve it. You're going to go. And the other part of me was like, that's ridiculous. No, there's much more things that you could do that are much more productive. But I did. And I went, and it was so nurturing and wonderful. Like things I've done for other people, like you're saying, I would have never thought twice about doing something extravagant or whatever for a friend or a relative, but for myself. And I think if you can kind of break through that way by like treating yourself in
Mm.
that way once in a while, and then you start to feel like, yeah, I'm worth it. I deserve this. This is fun. I like this. And then
Ah,
other ideas come.
I love that. Yeah, and definitely, I think we all deserve, and we shouldn't even see it as a luxury because there's probably, women and men that have done things that we have put off and seen as a luxury or as a treat. And we go, look at them now getting their hair done every Friday and getting blow dried. But you know what? Maybe they were right. Maybe they were taking that time out that they deserved it after all the effort they put in that week, whether with children or business or whatever it was, and that maybe it was just an hour or two just for them. Maybe there was no other space unless they made an appointment, to get the hair done or whatever it is. It's like you doing the run in the morning. If you kind of make an appointment with yourself and that you can't cancel that appointment, it's like a doctor's appointment that you can't cancel it or you
Yes.
won't get another one for 6 months. So I'm
Yes.
making an appointment with myself on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at this time every morning. And if anything else comes up, I'm sorry, I'm not available because I have an appointment each of those mornings. And that you endeavor to go out and have that appointment with yourself, whatever it is, whether it be running, going to the hair salon, going for a spa morning, going for a walk in nature, or just sitting down with a cup of coffee and a book and just saying, I'm going to do nothing. except read this
Yeah.
for the next hour, and it's going to be
Yes.
fabulous.
Yes. And I think I will just say, I think women, we tend to not do that. It's like kind of counterintuitive. I know it was for me. I had to really force beyond the voice inside of me to actually give myself permission to
Mm.
do that, to care for myself in the same way that I've cared for others.
Mm.
And it's a great thing to learn and to do, especially as you go forward in life, to remind yourself that, yeah, I'm worth it. I
Yeah,
definitely am.
definitely. There was an ad one time, you're worth it. And I think it's so true. And I think we need to all say that to ourselves every day. I am worth it. I am worth taking the time to write my thoughts, write my book, to meet my friends, to do all of these new and exciting things, even if it scares me a little. What have I
Yes,
got to lose? I have rare children. There is nothing more scary than that.
yes, that's very true. Except I don't think we thought about it as much as we might have.
Absolutely. I mean, there is no, even though I used to say that to people, there's lots of handbooks out there, and, you're having your first baby and being a parent and what's the right thing to do for teenagers and the right thing to say. I think when it comes down to you being a parent and parenting your own child and their individual needs and their individual personalities, there is no book that can guide you.
No, none, not at all. It's
Yeah.
really, they come without instructions.
Yeah. And I think you learn from the experience. You learn how to be a parent through your children. There is no other
Absolutely.
way to become a parent, only through your children.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to remember at this time of life, that you will teach yourself, and just be patient, and you will discover what you need and what you don't need and what you like and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
Yes. And one of the other important things you talked about there as well is like you rear your children, you get to the stage of your life, you're now a little bit more independent, you can do things you want to do, and then your parents are aging and you have to start taking care of them. How did that happen transitionally for you between your youngest one going off to college and having that what perceived freedom, and or was it always there that you were
It,
going to be responsible?
um, if it was, I was not thinking about it, that's for sure. But it was very soon. I can recall our daughter was dropped off, and it was still September. And my husband and I went to my cousin's daughter's wedding, and we were having a lovely evening. And then we got back in the car, and I remember sitting in the car, and there was a knock on the window. And I look over, and it's my sister. And I roll down my window, and she says, we need to talk. Now that Meredith is gone and you have more time, um, you need to schedule yourself to help dad out. My mother was starting to suffer from Alzheimer's. And I said, what? And so, that we ended up leaving. And my husband was like, wow, that was bad timing. We were having such a nice evening. But, my sister and I did work it out. And, I was needed. And of course, I was going to be there for my parents. And in hindsight now, I'm so glad I did. I got to spend some wonderful time with my mom that I write about in the book, and lots of really great memories of her, and just having some real quality time with her while I had the chance. So that was good. But I think from what I understand from talking to people, this is not uncommon, that
Mm.
the two things happen at the same time pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say it is such a reality, isn't it really? And it's also something we don't think about. And that's why I think it's really important to give yourself and value yourself, and that you are worthy of downtime. You have spent so many years rearing a family, and that then when you go to look after aging parents, that maybe one of them is unwell, but that again, it's to say, okay, this may be a natural progression, but that I still deserve to do a few things for myself, to take time out, because as my mother always says, life passes you by if you don't take part in it. And the next thing
That's right.
you're in your 70s and you're going, how did I get to this age and be responsible for everybody else but myself? And
Yes.
sometimes it takes illness for people to stop and reevaluate their lives and say, well, what's actually important now? And for me, that's why I always say it, and I still say it, Rita, it is a gift every day, isn't it? When we wake up and open our eyes and put our feet on the ground. And I say everything is possible today. And only I'm the only one that can make it possible by making a choice to go out and do it. And sometimes I may not want to do that, and that's absolutely fine. But it's finding something for yourself, whatever that is. I say to people, you don't have to write a book like Rita or Sharon, or you don't have to have a podcast. Maybe it's volunteering, maybe it's meeting new people, maybe joining a new community, experiencing something different in the world that you get excited about, like you're running, that you're going, I feel so much better after this.
Yes. Yes, and the writing too is my other way of processing things, and I think the writing makes you very, very conscious, which is a great blessing of the decisions you're making about your life, because particularly for me, I mean, this is a memoir, so I am and writing about my life and the things that are happening. And, some of the things you see while you're writing, you're like, I'm going to change that, or I'm glad I did that.
Mm.
And, one of the real blessings of this particular book was as each chapter unfolded, I started to realize just how much motherhood means to me.
Mm.
And also how much my mother taught me about life in general. And then, even though, of course, like you said earlier, I just probably was not paying attention when I was that young, when I left home. And I had no idea. I think now, wow, I wonder what my parents went through, but I did not give it any thought then.
No.
So,
And I always say that to my adult children now. I'll say, I never want you to feel obligated that you have to go home to see mom or dad. I never want you to feel like that. I want you to want to come home or
exactly.
want to meet us, not that it's an obligation. Because I remember I worked in a corporate company years ago, and there was a young girl just after coming out of college and starting in full-time employment with us. And herself and her brother were on the phone one day and they were arguing over whose turn it was to go home to Mammy and Daddy that weekend. And
Oh,
yeah, and he was going, well, I was there last weekend and I have something on this weekend. It's your turn. And she said, well, I want to go out because she had just moved into the city. She had her first wage, her first salary, and she wanted to experience life now as an independent young person. And the brother was telling her she should go home to Mammy and Daddy because he was busy.
oh, yes. No, I try very hard. I always think these kids, young adults, I should say, have enough pressures on their young lives right now, and I do not want to add to that in any way. I would, I just want to enhance their lives whenever I have the opportunity to.
Yeah.
So,
That's wonderful. So you were the columnist for, as you said, over a dozen years, and many of your readers really got, I suppose, a glimpse of you as a person. And were you still writing when your children were leaving home, or what was that like?
yes. So, uh, when my son left home, definitely, and when my daughter left home, I had just stopped. But writing a column was wonderful. I mean, it was like, I'm a very curious person, so it was like having this card that allowed you to go anywhere that you were curious about and call anyone and ask them any question. And it was a great gift of my writing life too. I mean, I interviewed, let's see, veterans and farmers and cancer patients. I interviewed Walter Cronkite and Sally Ride and Dave Brubeck and countless other people. And it was just such a wonderful thing. And it taught me, because you just had like 800 words to work with usually, like how to tell a story in that amount of space. Like you had to make each word work.
Mm,
And, there's a rhythm beginning, middle, and end all had to fit in that time frame. And I actually, many people have commented about my book in that has that same framework because
mm,
the way my writing came out during the empty nest processing it is that it would each chapter is a story. So you could pick up my book and you could read chapter 5 or chapter 9 or chapter 19, and you're going to get something out of just that one chapter. But then
mm,
when you string it all together, you get an idea of that time in my life. So
mm.
it was great training for what I eventually did.
Yes. And had you ever thought about writing a book before that, Rita?
I had thought about it. Yeah, definitely. And a couple of times I had ideas and pitched them, and it just didn't go anywhere. But this was different in that I wasn't thinking about writing a book. I was just thinking about getting through and figuring things out and just writing every day, write, 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 write. And eventually, I think it was years into it, I started to realize, wow, I think I have a book here. So it was kind of like reverse engineering
Yeah.
and putting it together. And then, I had to make some changes, because it was a book. I had to find a structure. So I used chronology, to put it all together. And I wanted everything to be in scenes. So I ended up throwing away some stuff that I wrote and changing it, but that's how how it goes.
Mm,
But it was just kind of just happened. And then the hope and the goal for the book became knowing what I had gone through, that I hope that, and now back to me, is an emotional guide
mm,
for readers, because there's a lot of books about the empty nest, but they seem to be much more practical. But I'm hoping that, and I have been hearing that this is a way to reassure other mothers and fathers out there that they're not in this alone, that this
mm,
is how many people feel and go through this time of life.
mm.
So,
Just beautiful. I love it. And I love that because it is the emotion of it, because everything for me is if I feel something deeply, I like to express it, whether that is through words or through writing or through storytelling, whatever it is.
yeah,
And I think the power of words, and when a person feels your emotions through it. They can feel it just by reading, the page and say, wow, they resonate with that feeling. And that's what a good book does for people, isn't it? It helps them to value whatever they're feeling or they have felt in the past. And that's why you get so many people saying thank you, because that's exactly what I have felt or I am feeling right now. So I don't feel as weird or that I'm abnormal in any way. And that, you know what, it is okay to feel like this and to validate their feelings, because parenting can be a tough role. And saying goodbye after all the efforts you have put into, two children or three children, even one child in your life, is a huge part, a huge chunk out of your life. It's not taken away from you, it's just gradually moving away from you to a different location. But again, it's what's in this space now, isn't it, Rita? What's in
yeah,
this space now that I want to now fill my life up with?
yes,
And I think you've done
exactly.
that beautifully by writing your book and even having these conversations on podcasts and going to your talks, in different bookstores. You're opening up your world now to other people, aren't you?
Absolutely. It is wonderful. I was thinking when you were saying that of like one person that read the book said to me, so you somehow captured all of these moments. And she said, but when I read them, my moments started coming back to me. And it
Oh,
was just so wonderful. And I thought, wow, that just makes me feel worthwhile, like I did something
oh,
that was so
yeah.
helpful.
Oh,
So.
I definitely think it is. I think it's a beautiful way to share with others your own personal experience that is obviously personal to everyone else, but that everyone can resonate with when they have gone through that. How are you now, Rita?
I'm great. I'm really loving my life. I've just kind of like arrived at a point. I think the book has been wonderful experience. It was launched at the end of March, and in that time, getting out, talking to people, all these experiences that are being shared. I mean, I love writing. I, I just have loved this time. It's like coming, all these things that I've always dreamed about coming true. My children are both doing well. And seeing them in their adult lives and all the new things that are happening for them, it's very rewarding.
Mm,
And my husband and I are doing great, and we love our lives together. And,
mm.
we often say it's so nice and quiet in here. And,
Yeah.
and having that predictability, like I'm going to have dinner with you. We just have to figure out what we're doing. We just appreciate all these little things about our lives.
Mm.
And more time and energy for my friends. It has just been a really nice time of life.
Wow,
So,
that is beautiful, Rita. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with myself and the listeners. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure many of the listeners are going to resonate with, and I'm sure there's many even parents of young children now, and they're going, "Oh my God, I don't want to think about that."
I know that's very true.
Yeah, and I would say don't think about it because just, you are busy enough when you are young parents with your young children and enjoy it. And even if you give it a thought for a moment in the times that you are so busy and frustrated, it won't be forever, that you will have a time for yourself. And in those times, you may be a little bit lonely for your young children and the messiness and the excitement of young children. So value, I always say to people, wherever you are in your life, just value that place right now. Whatever it is, even if it's not perfect, just value where you are now because things change and they change quite quickly for us. And one day you will be sitting and you will say, I remember that conversation Sharon had with Rita. And then you'll say, and now back to me.
Yeah, that's right. And I think you are absolutely right that you get the confidence, like just have the confidence that when you get to the emptiness, that same person that figured out how to be a busy mother of little kids will figure out how to navigate your emptiness and create a new life for yourself. You'll do it. Don't even think about it.
I love that. And what's interesting when you're talking about the nest, I have a beautiful garden out the back of my home, and we have mature trees, and we constantly watch, myself and my husband. Now we have time, we watch the birds, and they're
Oh,
rearing their young, and when they build their nests, and then they're, mothering and fathering the babies until the babies can fly. And all the babies have now flown, and they're flying away happy. But we saw one of the rooks, they're called flying with some straw or sticks the other day, and I said to my husband, I said, they're hardly building a new nest. So of course we looked it up and they said no, they are now kind of maintaining the nest they had already.
oh,
So it's like when the kids leave, you repaint the walls and you tidy up those rooms, everything
that's
you didn't
so
have time to
funny. Wow,
do.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And then
Interesting.
they also bring offerings to other rooks because they're now creating a bigger community because
Oh,
they're not the busyness of minding the small babies and teaching them to fly. Now they're becoming a big community and they're offering and sharing with each other.
that is
So they have
so,
this community support. Isn't that amazing?
that's amazing. I had no idea. Thank you for telling me that. I
Yes.
love that.
Yeah, so that's what I said to John. Even though we have watched them every year, I'm still learning something new about their behavior. And it made me think as we were talking that they're, doing up the house, the nest, but here they are going, spreading their wings and going out and reaching out to the rest of their community, whereas they didn't have time to do that before.
Yeah, that's so true. So
Yeah.
nice. What a
Yeah.
great analogy.
I love it, and nature offers me lots of perspective every day to see things differently. And that's what I said. Sometimes we need to just stop, be still, ask ourselves what it is we need today, and just look around at nature and it'll give you a little bit of inspiration. But Rita, you've been inspiring today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you have too. And I appreciate this conversation with you.
Oh, I do too. So thank you to Rita for joining us. You can find her on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and her website, ritalussier.com. I will be putting all of those links up in our show notes. And I am so grateful to Rita. And please do check her out on her website, and you can order her book. And now back to me. I'm going to have so much fun saying that all the time when I'm busy with everything else. Then I go, and now back to me.
I love that. You're funny.
I'm going to be so dramatic about it, Rita.
Oh.
So, again, thank you to everybody for listening, and I hope that you've enjoyed the conversation. And as always, if you have enjoyed it and you think of somebody that could benefit from listening to this conversation, please do share it with them. But until next time, take care of you.